Tonight, the Knicks and OKC. R.J. Barrett led the Knicks with 19, but overall a frustrating game against the Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the Thunder with 25. They beat the Knicks. Final score tonight, 101-89. The Knicks' three-game winning streak is over. Back on our Delta MSG studios, Bill Pito along with Wally Zerbiak. Alan Hahn joins us from his home studio. And Alan, OKC comes in as the lowest scoring team in the entire league. But tonight, the big story was the Knicks' struggles on offense.
And it started with Julius Randle's foul trouble. This was an awful game by the officials, to be honest with you. But he got into foul trouble early, and it just took their most important player, and that's what he's become, out of this game, and no one else could get it going. And Tom Thibodeau has been warning about this as well. I heard Austin Rivers say it, a couple other players as well. There's a lot of work to do here, so it's easy to get caught up in a nice start where you win 5 of your first 8, you go on a little winning streak, but you still have to understand where this team is. Bill, buckle up. There's going to be some highs and there's going to be some lows until they find their game and they find some consistency. That's just the reality of where this team is.
Why are you directing that at me?
Tick, 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 tick,
That's
tick,
right,
tick,
Wally.
tick, and then you play OKC.
Right. I mean, we talked about this. I mean, we really thought they're going to win tonight. Let's be honest. Coming into this game, come on.
Yes.
Rebuilding OKC, right? On long road trip for OKC. Knicks playing great basketball.
Team that's won 3
in.
road games, though, Bill.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You would have thought this would have been one the Knicks get. Not beating the Milwaukee Bucks, the best team in the East, and then winning at Indiana was a huge win. So. And then beating Utah, who's a top 5 team in the West. But you get wins where you get wins, and you got to learn from this loss. You really do. What I take from this loss is they really miss the consistency of Alec Burks shooting. And he's been out a lot longer than we expected. Hopefully he gets back into the lineup sooner because he can kind of bridge those gaps when other guys aren't shooting the ball well. You know R.J. Barrett's going to be inconsistent shooting. 7 for 21, 44 minutes. I mean, R.J. Barrett is good around the basket, but his shooting can really, really drain a squad a little bit because he gets open looks. And there's not much more you can ask than to get open looks like that, but you got to knock those down. So that was one of the things that the Knicks were trying to overcome tonight. And then the point guards. I mean, you mentioned it. What was it, 5 for 26, the point guard shot?
5 for 25. Payton,
5 for 25.
Payton Allen, 4 for 16. And Quickly, who hardly played the other night, 1 for 9 tonight in more extensive playing time than he got against the Jazz.
Yeah, Quickly did struggle. You could see just his timing, drives to the basket. There was a lot of physicality allowed on drives to the basket in this game, and I think the Knicks, especially him, he's a guy that likes to draw fouls, and it wasn't working nearly as much for him in this game. But Elfrid Payton is the other story. I mean, defenses are they're gonna find the guy they want to take the shot. You're gonna get the ball around you want, like the Knicks, they wanted Dort taking shots. Go ahead, keep taking threes. There's certain players you want the ball to get to them. I think Clyde said this recently. Sometimes there's a reason why you're open, and for Elfrid Payton, we're seeing it a lot lately where defenses are letting him get those shots because consistently throughout his career, he has not been a guy that's knocked down shots. And in this game, there were several of them that he just couldn't hit. You saw the frustration with him, and it just permeated the team. And defensively, this was the first time we've seen this season where the Knicks defensively, after that first quarter, and definitely in the second half, they gave up 59 points, where they just were not good defensively, pulled apart too much, a lot of easy baskets. It just was a bad night. And like I said, with a team like this, you got to know there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, and this certainly was one of the lows.
Wally, I also thought it was really important that with OKC shooting only 21% in the first quarter, the Knicks were unable to mount much of a lead there. With OKC couldn't do anything in the first quarter at all, and the Knicks were unable to build a sizable lead.
Yeah, and sometimes when you have a team that you feel like you should beat, although we've seen the NBA game, there's so much rhythm changes and there's so much flow changes that a lead can be wiped away really quick. Tonight, this OKC team is young, they're hungry, they play hard. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is becoming a star in this league, and Hamidou Diallo, that guy is a complete wrecking ball out there. I mean, he was stealing balls, diving on the floor, getting loose balls, going into beast mode around the basket. He ended up with a monster double-double off the bench. Both those two guys willed OKC to a victory, and the Knicks just didn't have an answer. Normally, I think the Knicks outworked the other team. I thought tonight, just the effort and the energy that young OKC team played with is what got them the win.
You know,
that's a great point, Wally. That's what I saw too. The energy. I think that was a big difference too. They got after loose balls. They got after some of the long rebounds. They just played a lot harder than the Knicks did. And that's what I was saying before. We haven't seen that. The Knicks have been a hard-working team. That's what we saw tonight for the first time, I think, in a while. They were outworked tonight, and they're going to watch the film. They're going to hate every minute of it, and they got to get ready for a very good Denver team coming in here on Sunday night.
Wally, I thought that when Austin Rivers hit that buzzer beater to end the third, with the Knicks getting to within 6, that here we go again. But in the fourth quarter, OKC scored 32 points.
I know, those young guys were all over the place. This was a sweet little move by Roby. Knocks down that little up and under, the Roby scoop, and then look at this. That's just too easy. That's R.J. Barrett normally can affect a shot like that a little bit more, but the Knicks had to go small, so they had no shot blocking.
But Wally,
George
look
Hill
how
with the
open
drive.
paint is.
Yeah, that's because they had to take Mitch out, and the Knicks went small. And Julius Randle is a versatile four-man, but he's not a shot blocker and rim protector. Diallo with the steal, 11-point game, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Barrett goes under the screen, whap, 13-point game. That was pretty much it. Night-night termite for the Knicks. I give Tom Thibodeau credit. He tried to put shooters out there. He tried to play small. He tried to get the game, some pace into the game to try to get back into the game. But without Mitchell Robinson out there, the Knicks had no answer to defend the rim. And I think it's asking a lot, because Randall's expending a lot of energy on the offensive end of the floor, and he had to really do a lot in that second half. He had 18 points in the second half in order to get him. He had 0 points at half. He had 18 in the second half, so he was expending a lot of energy to ask him to defend the rim and really be that main anchor and rebounder. That was a lot to ask when they went small, and that played right into OKC's hands.
Wally, can I bring up that ugly stat that I mentioned before the game?
Sure.
The stat of the game. For some reason, teams can't make free throws against the Thunder. It's ridiculous. Teams came into the game, as I said in the pregame, shooting a league low 69% from the free throw line. The Knicks tonight hit 12 of 20, so they leave 8 points on the free throw line at just 60%. Now, they didn't get to the line nearly enough for it to be effective, but I just had to bring that stat back because you just knew it was going to come to fruition tonight, didn't you?
Han Hex.
The Han Hex, yep.
What are they defending the foul line?
I hope
Sure,
he was
blame
going to
me.
reverse Han Hex it, and that the Knicks were going to make everything. That's what normally happens. Han brings up a stat, and then it goes the complete opposite direction. But he was actually right tonight.
All right, in some of the fourth quarter action, we saw the great play by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah.
Tom Thibodeau said pregame that he is emerging as one of the top guards in the league, and he showed it tonight. Played really well with 25 points.
I know, and he does it all out there. He's really versatile, and you know, he's a good outside shooter too. And when you can keep defenses honest on the outside, that opens up your game to attack the rim. He's got good size, good speed. Look at the way he darts to the basket, and there's just no resistance. I agree, no resistance around the rim. I mean, at least that shot's contested. Make him pull up, make a tough little 15-foot floater. But him getting the basket and having uncontested layups shows the importance of having Mitchell Robinson out there. And there, he makes teams pay when you go under the screen. He really started off slow. And a lot of times, star players and the main guys, sometimes they can start off slow and they can still have monster games. And he came back in that second half and second quarter and really just went off, and the Knicks had no answer to stop him.
Well, I couldn't understand, though, as we were seeing some of the earlier, the first couple of highlights you see, it was a layup drill for him. It gets by his first defender, and there really wasn't anything there, any resistance, like you said. This didn't feel like a physical game by the Knicks defensively. And I don't know if you saw something. Why were they so spread out? The Thunder are not a great three-point shooting team. Was there a necessity to be glued to your guy out on the perimeter? I could not understand why the paint was so wide open in this game.
Well, it was wide open in the fourth quarter because if you look, they had R.J. Barrett at the 4.
It was wide open in the second quarter.
Well, I thought Mitchell Robinson did a good job of clogging it up. There was only 40 points scored by both teams in the first half, so the defense was pretty good on both ends. Both teams shot 35%. So I don't know what game you were watching in the first half, but in the fourth quarter, that's when it opened up because both teams went small. And there were driving lanes.
He's starting to pout. Don't make him pout. What are you looking at?
It's not pouting. I'm looking at points in the paint. I'm looking at just the shots in the paint. I have the shot chart in front of me as well. The best thing about being home is I got a million screens in front of me and every shot chart possible. And they did whatever they wanted when they got into the paint.
But the reality is, Alan, points in the paint, OKC 42, Knicks 38. That's not that big a deal.
It's not about how many the Knicks had. It's about how many you gave up versus how many points they scored. The point is that they got into the paint for easy baskets when the Knicks had to get stops. This was just not a typical game for this team. It was just surprising to me.